Welcome everybody, welcome to Kitchen Sink. This is our kitchen to play in and to let Googlers really learn how to fish. We don't just give you fish, we want you to learn how to fish. But my guest today, Ann Cooper, is the person who really has changed the way a very important part of our population eats and cooks, and that's children. So I'm delighted to welcome you. Thank you. Thank you for doing the class earlier.
My pleasure.
And it was delicious and simple and good, and it's recipes from what she cooks for the kids in the Boulder School District, from the Berkeley School District. So when I knew Ann, many years ago, she had the moniker of being the renegade lunch lady, because she was the only one doing this, doing really good, healthy, nutritious food to kids. And I'll have her tell that story later. And now she was kind of lamenting to me that we can't call her that anymore because so many other school districts are doing this. She's really at the head of this movement to change school food around and how our children eat. So she's not renegade, but what she's done is a lot of other things, like started a foundation, the Food Farmer Foundation.
Food Family Farming.
Food Family Farming Foundation. She's got her own nonprofit. She's also, her daytime job, as she says, is running the Boulder School District and turning that freight train around. All the conventional old practices of a school district in the U.S. So I'm delighted to have you here. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. So what is the work now, Ann? It's not being the renegade. So many people are being you and trying to turn things around. What's the next step in turning around our children's diets?
Well, you know, I'm not even sure we're past the crawling point yet. There's 113,000 schools in this country, 14,000 school districts. So there's so many schools and so many school districts, and they have no money and they're under the USDA guidelines. So it's really baby steps to make changes. And there are school districts all across the country that are making them, but it's really slow and really hard. And you know, I just heard that there's 4 daycares at Google, and of course Google has, you know, amazing food, but most school districts run on $1.20 for food cost, which is, you know, a quarter of a venti coffee, you know. So the idea that we would try and feed our kids healthy food on $1.20 or $1.25 is of course ridiculous. So if we're going to really make these changes, we need more money in the system, we need better food in the system, we need facilities for people to cook in, and we need training for the cooks, and we need marketing for the kids. I've already heard my kid won't eat. That's what every parent says, is my kid won't eat, fill in the blank. And so in all of these ways, we need to make changes. But to just build on what Olivia said is, so I have 3 day jobs. I'm the director of nutrition services in Boulder Valley School District. We do about 11,000 meals a day, and everything's cooked from scratch or to our specifications. We have salad bars in every school, pre-K-12. We have organic milk, hormone and antibiotic-free beef and chicken, only whole grains, I mean, on and on. But it's 5 years later, it's super hard to do that. And before I was in Boulder, I was in Berkeley. So that kind of work is really hard. My foundation does 3 things. One, we work in conjunction with the First Lady's Let's Move campaign. We have Let's Move salad bars to schools. And we've raised about $8.5 million putting salad bars in schools all across the country. I think we have about 3,400 right now, which is really great. And we have the lunchbox.org, which is our web portal that has all free information for school districts all across the country to make that change from how we process to scratch cooked. And then we have a breakfast project as well. So we have all that. And I also have a consulting company that actually does technical assistance for school districts that are really trying to make the change. So most recently, we were in Baltimore for a year working on that school district, and now we're going to be doing some more work here in California. So a lot of stuff is going on.
Basically, though, it has to do with what most of these people are here to hear about, which is how do I get my kid to eat more vegetables, fill in the blank. And why is it you can do it and they can't do it at home, or they are fighting more at home?
Well, first of all, if there's better food in schools, it becomes easier at home. I mean, that's absolutely critical. I mean, if every day your kid goes to school and has choices off of a salad bar that has 20 items on it, and because there's choice, they will make their own palette of flavors that they like, or palette of colors that they like, or I mean, that's really, really helpful. But one of the big issues really is that what's the first word a child learns? Well, maybe mama, maybe dada, and then no, right? And they're saying no to whatever is on that spoon going in their mouth. And so we teach our kids from the very earliest age that their place of power is no over what you're putting in their mouth. And then, of course, there's no for all these other things, but because we're doing it to them, we're handing it to them, we're having them eat it. And so they've learned that. So when parents tell me, well, my kids don't eat X, Y, or Z, and I bring them into the kitchens and say, stand behind the window and watch your kid eat all of this stuff. And they go, no, my kid won't eat that. I'm going, is that your child, And it's because we give them choices. It's because they are not fighting with their parents and having a win or lose kind of game going on. We take the power away. We just give them the choices. And there's this funny thing that's happened in America, and it's happened in just 40 or 50 years. 40 or 50 years ago, there wasn't kids' food. 40 or 50 years ago, 55 years ago, there wasn't McDonald's, there wasn't Burger King. 65 years ago is when the National School Lunch Program started. Chicken nuggets aren't that old. So it's this idea that there's kids' food, and I happened to be able to go to China with Olivia a number of years ago, and her great aunt, whether it's aunt or not, we had this banquet that she was overseeing, and I mean, you look at the food, and there's chicken heads and whatever was on the table, and so I asked through Olivia, what about kids' food, and she said, what? There's not even a concept of kids' food. She thought, what do you mean kids' food? And so this idea that kids get to have their own food, and that it should be like colors, or flavor, Choco something cereals, or Fruit Loop cereals, or chicken nuggets that are in the shape of hearts, diamonds, and flipper. I mean, all of this is marketing, and so big companies are spending $17 to $20 billion a year marketing this non-nutrient foods to kids, and then all of us are sitting there going, well, how do we get the kids to eat broccoli if what's being marketed to them is this unhealthy junk that's supposed to be fun food, that is kids' food, it's something that the kids think is their own, and that becomes their choice then, and that becomes the things that they're drawing a line in the sand, and I only eat chicken nuggets, or I only eat tater tots, or I only eat white bread, or rice or pasta, or fill in the blank, because that's the thing they get to have. So the way we work against that in our school district is we have 200 to 300 events a year. So we do tastings and Iron Chef competitions, and we do rainbow days where the kids go to the salad bar and have to get 4 colors off the rainbow, and they get a sticker. So they get stickers if they eat, all the different colors of the rainbow and all the flavors that go with that. So we really try and make it educational, and we really try and make it all about choice. And that helps, but there is no kid food in our district at all. So we don't have chicken nuggets or French fries or tater tots, or we make our own French fries. We serve them once or twice a month, but nothing processed. And kids eat the food.
And then is there a way to translate it for home? I mean, if I go home and I have half an hour to make dinner, I'm not going to give my kid 5 choices.
And you would be surprised how many families end up being short order cooks. And I think that that's part of the problem. I mean, I think if we, as adults, if we just say, when we go home to make dinner, if we're not, cooking a different thing for every person in the family, if we say this is what's dinner, no child is going to starve themselves to death, because I've never heard of a child starving to death because of lack of a chicken nugget or a tater tot, but as soon as we continually decide that we are going to be short order cooks, then again, that's what happens. Then we are becoming short order cooks, and then, we give everybody their own little thing, whatever it is they want, and all of a sudden, then you guys go home from work every day and pulling your hair out because, this one kid only eats this, and this kid only eats this, and this kid only eats this, and becomes this nightmare to live with. I mean, I know parents tell me this all the time, how hard it is. But I think there are ways around it around the kitchen table as well. I mean, I think that the idea that we really involve kids in the process. So go shopping with your kids. And I understand how much of a nightmare it is to take kids shopping. I get it. So you don't do it every day or anything. You go to the farmer's market. We're here in California right this minute. There's farmer's markets every single day of the week somewhere. But you go to the farmer's market with the kids when you have time, and you let them pick out something they've never had and say, okay, every week, one new thing, and we're going to cook it together, and you just have to try it. Or let them grow something. Gardens are incredible. Every kid that would never eat arugula, when they pick that arugula, they'll eat it. When they see the carrot in the dirt, and they'll eat it, and they see all of a sudden it tastes so sweet and it's so amazing. So you take kids shopping, cook with kids, grow with kids, have them involved in the process. I was with some people last night that say one of the things they do is and this is a little older than maybe the preschool kids here, but in middle school, with their middle school kids, they have them make the menu once a week. So they get to choose. It has to be healthy. Here's the deal. You have to have a fruit, a vegetable, whatever it is, But you make the menu and I'll help you cook it. And then we'll all eat it together. And, everybody has their turn of when they get to make the menu. And maybe it's not once a week, maybe it's once a month, whatever. The other thing that's really important is sitting down at the dinner table with your kids, turning off the TV, the iPhone, the iPad, the computer, everything. Take a moratorium on all things digital for 45 minutes and sit down with your child or children and family as many times of the week as you can. It's not going to be every night, but as many times as you can as a full family, and take that time to eat together. It solves so many problems. And when all of a sudden mealtime becomes something special, then it's something that then becomes part of a core value. We now live in a country where 1 out of every 4 meals is actually eaten in a car. We have made cars our dining rooms in America. 1 out of every 4 meals in fast food, and 1 out of every 4 meals in front of a blue screen, iPhone, iPad, or in Google World, Android. But that's what we do. And so we've taken away this core value of food, and it changes things. It really changes the dynamic. And we need to get that back. We need to find our kitchens again. We need to cook again, turn off the TV, and get rid of all the blue screens for 1 hour a day, or even 45 minutes.
But there were stories, I heard some of them, from early days when you were at Berkeley. So the background is Alice Waters in Berkeley heard about what Anne was doing at a private school called Ross, and said, you're coming to Berkeley to turn this freight train around. And so, and she did. But what happened in the early days? Tell us some stories.
Well, yeah, there's some crazy stories, and including when I went to Boulder as well. But one of the first things that happened, even before I got out here to California, at the Ross School, and the Ross School was a very well-funded private school in New York, in East Hampton. And I think the first or second year we were there, I had a bunch of 4th graders march in. It was all girls at that point, it wasn't co-ed. March into the cafeteria, sit down on the floor and say, Miss Cooper, we're on strike. We hate your food. And they all sat down, and I felt like cheering, but I know that wasn't what was supposed to happen, so I didn't cheer. So I sat down on the floor with them, and I said, what's going on? We hate your grilled cheese sandwiches. Well, how can you hate the grilled cheese sandwiches? The bread is yucky, it's brown, the cheese is an orange. So, of course, it was in New York, and it was beautiful, white cheddar, and we made the bread ourselves. And so we started a cooking class for the girls. We had a cheese tasting. We let them make their own bread. They came up with a ratio on the bread that met our guidelines. And all of a sudden, they had a grilled cheese sandwich that was as good as the other one, different, 50-something% whole grain instead of 100%. I was fine with that. We switched from white cheddar to orange cheddar. I was okay with that. A little natto never hurt anybody. But that was their sandwich. So the next year, these young girls are bringing the new girls into the cafeteria, and they said, oh my God, you guys have it so much luckier. We fixed everything. The food is so much better here now. So they had taken total ownership over it. When I got to Berkeley at King, this is before the new kitchen was built over there at King Middle School, the kids actually went on strike and were throwing their food against the side of the school. So they would just take their food and they would walk outside and they were bouncing it off the side of the school. So after lunch, there were there's just whole pile of food. And so we did have that whole discussion about again, what was wrong, what do you want to change? How can you fix it? How can we work on it together? And, eventually all these years later, the Berkeley school food is still unbelievable and amazing. And we had some of the same things happened in Boulder, but I've been there 5 years now, and participation over the last 3 years has gone up 6%, 6%, and 7%. So, so it works. It just takes time. That's the other thing. We didn't become a nation of obese people overnight. We're not going to change that overnight. We didn't change children's palates to be really invested in high salt, high fat, high sugar overnight. So we're not going to turn that train around overnight either. So you just have to keep walking down the road of going, okay, this is what it is, and it's going to be this way tomorrow and the next day. So what's it going to take to get used to it?
So it's about ownership for the kids.
It's about ownership for the kids.
But what about the parents? I hear you had some threats.
I had death threats. I had actual written death threats from parents in Berkeley and in Boulder, as a matter of fact. In Berkeley, the death threats included, I hope somebody runs you off the Bay Bridge. This was, of course, the old Bay Bridge. And then when I got to Boulder, it was, I hope somebody just runs you all the way back to California, where you weird people belong. Of course, here I am, the weird person. But parents don't want to be told what to do. Kids don't want to be told what to do. I mean, I had parents going, who are you to take away our kids' chicken nuggets? And who are you to tell us that we can't have chocolate milk? And who are you to decide, what's healthy? And, my answer to all of those things is that schools take a higher bar and a higher ground. Schools are drug-free zones. And parents may allow their kids to smoke pot at home, but schools are drug-free zones, and schools are alcohol-free zones. And, parents of high school kids might let their kids have a little bit of wine at home or beer or something. But at schools, we say no. And in the same way, we as adults and caregivers and educators have to take that higher bar and say, this is an educational place. And whether tacitly or implicitly, if we allow things that we don't believe are in the best interest of the child, that they become, part of the culture. So we have to make those changes. One of the things we work on a lot now is educating parents. So whether we do cooking classes, we do quarterly newsletters, I go to PTA and PTO meetings, we do tastings for parents. So we do all that stuff as well, because parents have to be invested in the change as well as the kids.
What are some data points you have? You're saying you have growth 6%, 6%, 7%. Anything about the children's health? Anything about their performance?
So here's the thing about evaluation. It's really, really expensive. So we did an evaluation in Berkeley, and for $500,000, here's what I was able to find out. Our kids that ate school lunch ate 3 times more vegetables than kids that brought their lunch from home. And not fruit, vegetables. And that's really important, because you can easily get kids to eat fruit, because it's basically sugar, but vegetables. And so most parents in Berkeley would think, oh, my kid's going to eat healthier if I pack them lunch. But what the evaluation showed is actually no, the kid's going to eat healthier if they eat school lunch, because our school lunch was healthy and because we had salad bars. and that our kids ate less sugar at home because there was basically no sugar in school. So that's what we found out for $500,000, and that was great, but it did not and was not able to do anything about baseline wellness or academic performance. I think that there is, Arkansas is doing BMI, body mass index, with every child in the state that's in their K-12 program. That should, in a few years, have some kind of results. But what I can tell you anecdotally is that it really makes a difference. What we see when we change food in schools is less absenteeism, less tardiness, less behavioral problems, those things we know. And we also know that hungry kids can't think and malnourished kids can't learn, so we need to have kids fed. But I think even more important for Googlers than that, or just as important as, many people around Google can probably afford to feed their kids well, but they're going to school with people who may not be able to. And every teacher will tell you they have to teach to the bottom third of the class. It's just, that's what they have to do. So if there's behavioral problems in a class, doesn't matter how well you're feeding your child, if the next person is not, and especially if those are kids from underprivileged homes, then your child is not getting the education that you would like them to get, because there's kids that are hungry or malnourished in that classroom who can't behave and who can't think, and your child may be being taught down to. So it's really important to understand it's not just your child, because your child is part of a whole class, and every child in that class ends up being part of the educational model.
What about some success anecdotes?
We see tremendous success. I will tell you that I'm going to speak to Congress in just a few weeks at a congressional hearing, because these kind of issues have made it all the way up to the top. I've done events with Michelle Obama, and she's been an amazing cheerleader in this. There is foundations all over the country that are putting money into school food and to salad bars and to gardens. We're really seeing the USDA make tremendous positive change. The National School Lunch Program, even though it's really imperfect, is still feeding kids better now than it maybe ever has in its existence. And if school districts would actually start living up to the letter of the law, and if our Congress people would stop messing with the guidelines, then we would see the food get better and better. The USDA said that pizza shouldn't be a vegetable. Now, I don't know if any of you know this, but pizza is still considered a vegetable in schools. And I'm pretty sure that pizza doesn't grow out of the earth. And why is this considered a vegetable? It's because 1 tablespoon of tomato paste is considered a vegetable equivalent. And so the lobbyists got to Congress people, and this is the frozen food and tomato lobbyists and the pizza lobbyists, got to Congress and convinced Congress that the world was going to go bankrupt if we didn't consider pizza a vegetable. And the USDA in the guidelines said that you could only serve starchy vegetables like corn and potatoes twice a week, a half a cup each. And the potato lobby got to Congress and the frozen food lobby and got them to turn that around, so potatoes or French fries can be served as a vegetable 5 days a week. So you could actually serve whole grain chicken nuggets, chocolate milk with high fructose corn syrup, and French fries as a complete meal today under the guidelines. Now, it's certainly not the intent of the law, but because Congress wouldn't back up the USDA, we ended up in that place. So one of the things we all can do is really think when we vote, in congressional elections, that the people who run school food is the USDA, but Congress allocates the money, so they get to actually pull punches and make changes in the program, because they hold all the cards.
So you can do whole wheat chicken nuggets, chocolate milk, and French fries for $1.20 per kid?
Well, yes, you can, wow. But you're going to get pretty crappy chicken nuggets for that. But we don't serve chicken nuggets, so I don't know too much about them. I've never eaten one.
So how much are you spending per kid?
I'm spending in Boulder about $1.20 on average for the food. The reimbursement rate from the federal government is $2.96, so that's what all lunch ladies like myself get to feed a child is $2.96. But that includes payroll and overhead and trucks to deliver and knives and cutting boards and, you know, in every piece of the whole department. So most school districts spend about a third of that on food, or around $1.20 for good school districts. But LA spends 76 cents, and they've been very proud of that for years. So.
But you are getting them organic, local vegetables on most days, and
well, not always organic
no
vegetables,
milk.
but there is no chocolate milk. We do have hormone and antibiotic-free hamburgers and ground beef and chicken, and I have organic milk. But we work super hard at procurement. We work really hard at trying to control inventory costs and to control waste and to cook as much from scratch as possible so that we really can keep our costs down. But it's hard. It's really hard. You know, a typical lunch here at Google costs, you know, 4 or 5 times what we're spending for an entire week of our kids' meals. And we in America think nothing of spending $3, $4, $5 on coffee, $5, $6, $7 on beer, 8, 9, 10, 15 in San Francisco, or probably here as well, 18 on a glass of wine. You know, so we think as adults nothing of spending 3, 5, 10, 15 times on a sometimes daily adult beverage as we do to feed a kid. And I think that really needs to change. We need to understand that our choices as far as, you know, how we fund education and school food really makes a difference, and makes a difference for your kids at home and at school and their ability to learn. And so it's super important.
Talk about your foundation. Why did you do it, and what does it do?
I don't know how I ever came to have a foundation around school food. You know, I was like, I'm such an unlikely advocate to be doing anything with school food. I was a white tablecloth, kind of crazy celebrity chef, and never knew what kids ate. And like my worst nightmare is when somebody from the front of the house came running into the kitchen going, chef, there's a screaming child on table 19, what do I do? And I'd say, ask them to leave. Why are they in my restaurant, you know? So, but here I am, and I did start a foundation 4 years ago now, and the foundation was trying to put together a toolbox. Like everyone would ask me, what are you going to come to our school district next? Somebody earlier today said, oh, San Jose really needs you. And you know, every place I go, they say, oh, we really need you. I get an email today, oh, can you come to Philadelphia, Pittsburgh? And of course, I can't clone myself, so I decided what we needed to do is develop all the tools a school district would need to be able to go from highly processed to scratch cooked. Well, I originally actually envisioned it as a physical toolbox, you know, 10 years ago when I started thinking about it. Then shortly after that, I said, oh, no, it of course needs to be digital. But even 10, 12 years ago, the reality of the digital world we live in today was very different. But anyhow, so it became digital. I started a foundation, and we did the 3 things I told you about, the lunchbox and Let's Move Salad Bars to Schools, and we have a breakfast program and a few other programs as well. But now what we're doing is the USDA guidelines changed, so we got a big grant to overhaul the entire website, so everything, and they really only change once every 10 or 20 years, so we overhaul everything so we would be able to meet the new guidelines going forward for many years to come. We're also relaunching the website, relaunching the foundation, and working with a lot of partners to do that. And I'm really excited about all of that, because as we move forward, I really hope that we can change how we feed every kid in America, that it shouldn't be just private schools or rich schools that can feed kids well. I mean, it ought to be a birthright that every child in America gets good, healthy food in school, and that no child is hungry. I mean, that's what everybody wants. And we're sitting here at Google, and you know, just the amount and variety and quality of food we have here, and then you think that, you know, you go a few miles away to a typical school and go look and see what they're eating, you know? We need to change that. So that's what we hope to do.
Thank you. Very inspiring. So any questions from the floor?
So I wonder if you know who particular in Congress introduced legislation or introduced the line item, whatever it was, to say pizza was a vegetable, and maybe they'd like some more attention.
You know, the pizza was it's been a vegetable for decades, but the USDA had taken it out of the new ruling, so it wouldn't be allowed anymore. And I don't know who in Congress was really forcing that the other way. I will tell you that a congressperson from Maine and a congressperson from Colorado were the two people that made sure that French fries could stay in every single day and be served as a vegetable. So it's hard. It's all about money. You know, we serve about 8 billion meals a year in the National School Lunch Program, and it costs about $12 billion. And so, that's just lunch is $12 billion. So it's probably costs about $15 billion. It's a lot of money. There's a lot of profit. And so a lot of people could get hurt if we said we're going to do things a little different. And so there's tremendous pushback from the industry.
If your school district's not focused on this, what do you think the best way is to get them focused on it?
So every school district in America since 2006 had to have a wellness policy put in place. Most of them have languished on some administrator's shelf. But now, as of 2 years ago, every school district has to update them and have them reapproved by the USDA every 3 years during their recertification. So the first thing you do is find the wellness policy, which is probably, well, you guys all work at Google, so you could probably figure this out, but Google wellness policies for your school district, and then you'll find some place on the website, and you might have to dig where this wellness policy resides, and they may not actually even have it on the website, but it's probably in the minutes of a board meeting somewhere, so find it. Then go to your child's school and actually eat lunch. Then find a whole bunch of moms and dads that think like you do, and go to the school board and say, okay, here's a wellness policy, and either it says nothing about healthy food, and you go, okay, so this needs to change, or it talks all about the healthy food, and you can have a big poster-sized picture of whatever it is you saw on your kid's plate that day and go, okay. Or better yet, bring the food with you, and then go, you know, we really wanted this to change. I mean, we live in a democracy, and school boards are actually, not in every single place, but in most places in America, they're voted in. They're voted in by the electorate. There are some places where they're appointed, but mostly they're voted in. And superintendents are basically hired by the school board. So the superintendent and the school board hold all the cards around school food. So if you want it to change, you need to get the school board to tell the superintendent that better food is really important, and that's what you want for your kids. And eventually they'll listen or vote them out and find someone who will listen. I know cities that have actually made it such a big, important thing that school board members would actually have to run on healthy school food as part of their platform to get elected.
So how much of an emphasis, you talked about organic foods, and I'm wondering, because I remember one time I was at a farmer's market and there were two stands, and one was organic, the other was non-organic, and the price was obviously a lot less for the non-organic, and I said, well, why isn't yours organic? Do you use pesticides? They were like, no. And what is it? So, well, they go, well, we use some fertilizer, so we can't say it's organic. But for the privilege of that, you get to pay whatever additional premium. So it seems like in a lot of cases, going for the organic really isn't actually that beneficial. So how discriminating are you in terms of what you try to do as organic and what you recognize really, because plants are making their own toxins internally all the time anyway, that's how they defend themselves.
So I absolutely agree. I mean, what we say is local first, and the closer I am to the source, if I know the farmer, then that's what's the most important. If I know the farmer and they say we're practicing IPM, integrated pest management, or we're practicing organic practices, but we have a potato beetle problem and we are once a year spraying something, I don't know what, on it, but it's well before harvest and we've had it tested. And so what's important to me is that I have an honest and open and transparent relationship with the person who is producing the food for our children. And it's not always organic. I can't afford all organic, but to your point, it's not always the best alternative, although we need to have less chemicals on our food and our children's food. So it's always a balance, but for me, local always comes first. And the further away from me it is, like bananas, for instance, which I don't actually think we're even I think we're gonna stop serving them all together, finally. I've been trying, but finally I think I've made the decision. But organic bananas were important because they came from far away, and bananas are one of the most chemically laden pieces of produce in the world. So, so distance and transparency and knowledge make a huge difference.
I think it's interesting that you spoke about choice, and that choice is an important part of the meal, because I think I've always made the assumption that choice complicates the decision, and so just eat what's been put in front of you. And so I'd like to hear more about how choice has helped children.
Well, and I think, so here's the deal. When I say choice, I don't think there should be 10 entrees. You know, you go into high schools and they say, oh, the kids need mini marts, or the kids need 7 kinds of fast food. That's ridiculous. But when I say choice, when you look at a salad bar and there may be 7 kinds of vegetables, and you know, we usually have 8 kinds of vegetables, both animal and vegetable protein, some kind of dairy, and something like hummus or something like that. So those are the kind of choices. Teaching children that you can have, there's 4 vegetables on the table, you can have, you know, any 2 of them today, you know. I think that that's the kind of choice. Or going to the grocery store and saying, pick out something you want from the vegetable aisle, and that's what you know, something you've never had from the vegetable aisle or the farmer's market, and we'll make it together, or something like that. So I don't mean like 10 kinds of entree choices like we often see here at Google, because I don't think that's realistic, and I don't support schools having those kind of choices, but it's more around small choice like salad bars or a couple kinds of vegetable. So we do things like that.
And with the vegetable consumption that you're seeing with children increase your school lunch, is that typically tied to the salad bar, or cooked vegetables also being consumed well?
Well, both, but in a school food setting, the largest percentage of our produce is on the salad bars, because it's very hard in a school setting to actually serve cooked vegetables well. So I'll take broccoli as a perfect example. I can have the most beautiful steamed, shock, chilled, bright green broccoli that comes out of our production kitchens, goes out to be reheated, because it's a cook chill operation at the site, and I guarantee you 9 times out of 10 they will turn it into brown mush, because it's not, and most sites don't have the capacity to cook that from raw. There are some vegetables that transport really well. Roasted broccoli, roasted cauliflower, roasted carrots, things like that transport really well. But because raw vegetables transport really well, and because for most kids, if you can get them to eat raw, cooked is actually easier, so it's sort of a little harder to go backwards, because the cooked is sweeter than the raw is oftentimes. You know, that's what we see. But we saw in Boulder, we went from $70,000 worth of produce to $500,000 worth of produce in 3 years, and you know, without much waste. It's pretty amazing.
Well, it's not really the child won't eat question as much as like when other children are eating things, and I mean it becomes harder, right? Like if like 5 friends have Lay's potato chips and they don't. I mean, I'm sure you see that, I mean, especially at schools. I mean, and so are the children making do you see the children making healthier decisions on their own, given that ultimately they have the chicken nuggets in front of them too?
Well, they don't. See,
From
that's
a
the
friend,
thing.
like a friend from home, right? Right. I'm sure they must.
Actually, I have not seen kids bring chicken nuggets from home, but they do bring things like Lunchables or stuff like that. You know, I don't see much trading between kids who bring their lunch and buy their lunch. What I see is kids that bring their lunch trading back and forth. The kids who get hot lunch actually have a hot meal and salad. And so there's not that kind of trading you see with the kid next to you that has the Cheetos or whatever it is. So I don't know. But I think that, you know, the more kids that are eating, if the majority of the kids are getting hot lunch, then that problem kind of goes away. But it's got to start with that the food is good for parents to want their kids to actually eat hot lunch, and so that's the problem. But to your point, I mean, I think that in the schools where we have a high proportion of parents who pack their kids' lunch, I mean, we go to the PTAs and talk about what's in the lunches and what, we have schools that have banned candy and banned sugar drinks and stuff like that. And so, I mean, that kind of stuff really helps, and that can all be in the wellness policy. You can actually write a wellness policy that says that, candy or, sugar-added beverages aren't allowed in school. Just say, that's it, not allowed. And parents can do that.
So my takeaway is that parents need to take responsibility, maybe work with the other parents and convince this district to raise awareness. But is anything like top down happening? Because $1, whether $2 is no budget. Can the school give them more budget? How can we push on that?
The school doesn't have the money, but the government has the money, both the state and the federal government. In California, the state actually gives school districts, I think it's 19 or 20 cents per lunch. So the state in California actually does supplement. Many states do not. We need a push on the federal government. That's where the push really needs to be. And that's a policy issue. And I think we really need to take that on. And, I'm going to be doing some work with Google over the coming year, maybe two. And I think that one of the things that we could try and work on is how do we make that push? I mean, how do we use Googlers and Google's influence to make, if this is something that's important to many people, how do we start to make the change in the upper level so there is some of that top-down change? Because at the end of the day, it's a government-funded program that our tax dollars pay for. So we should really get to make those changes. But a lot of people, don't want to see their taxes go up. But it's not even so much about taxes going up. Like right now, the National School Lunch Program, just lunch, costs about $12 billion a year. And I think it should double, And people go, well, where are we going to get that kind of money? But just two diseases, diabetes and obesity, cost us $260 billion a year, which is $5 billion a week. The wars that we're not in cost about $3 billion a week. So it wouldn't take much to actually put a whole lot more money into the system. But it really takes all of us. I mean, if we all just did one thing and got everyone else we knew to do one thing and really said, okay, we're going to do one thing to make this change, then over time, slowly but surely, we could make this our nation's priority instead of, we have a multi-trillion-dollar budget. Who even knows what $1 trillion is? And our budget is multi-trillion. How could we not want to spend an extra 50 cents on our kids' lunch? 50 cents, And that's what I think we need to do. It's so little, right? So little money.
It seems slightly more complicated, though, because of the lobbies, right? I mean, because there is, so you're doing okay. I mean, I'm not suggesting $1.20 is okay to spend, but you're managing, to find better options.
Well, I spend half of my time being a grant fundraiser, but yes, it is really hard, though.
But then you have the lobbyists that are pushing their more processed foods as well, right?
But this is the only country on the planet where this is really happening. And it's because that we really haven't valued food as a nation. And so you go to Italy or France and you see these, they're spending $5, $6 on their school lunch. And when I talked to the people in Rome that were overseeing 816,000 meals a day in Rome, I said, how can you afford, it was €4 at the time, how can you afford the €4? And she looked at me and said, €4 for lunch, €400 for a hospital room. And that's the connection that we in our country aren't making, is that, if we don't feed our kids healthy food today, they're going to be in the hospital in 10 years. We already see that the leading cause of death of children under 15 is cancer, much of which is related to diet and environment, and exercise. We know that 1 out of every 3 kids that was born in the year 2000 is going to be overweight or diabetic. It's crazy. It's staggering. Obesity in children has tripled in 25 years. I mean, it's a quarter of a generation. So things are going bad so quickly that we have to be able to make the connection between healthy food and healthy kids, and we have to be able to push back on the bottom line corporate mentality that is pushing us in this direction. It's not only going to ruin the health of generations to come, but it's going to bankrupt the entire system. We're not going to be able to pay for it anymore.
Thank you for coming. Please talk to her some more. Thank you.